All right, I'm Jesse. This is Jeff. We're two friends here having a conversation. Usually having a drink together, but tonight I'm sick. That's why we haven't been here for a while. I apologize. But Jeff's having a drink on his own. I'm just having some good old H2O.
Yeah.
Welcome to Off the Crypto Cuff.
Off the Crypto Cuff, and I'm trying something new. Iron Smoke.
Iron Smoke. Is that whiskey or is it a
straight bourbon whiskey?
All right, nice. I know you like your other stuff sometimes too. Your
rums.
Yeah. So
rum, scotches. It's like I try them. It depends. Palate's weird.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah, with this sickness, I'm taking some medicine. That's why I can't drink tonight. But the it's interesting because it's changed my taste buds. Like I taste stuff more. It's weird. It's a steroid, so I don't know if that has something to do with it or not. But yeah, I was trying to get over this cough thing I have. Been congested. I got some chest stuff going on, but I'll be fine hopefully soon. Just a couple more days of medicine. Anyhow, so yeah, we want to kind of break it off with the Bitcoin. Seemed to hit a pretty good high this week.
Yeah,
it was about 73,000. Looks like on the 29th. Yeah, that was near its all-time high. So that's kind of big news, actually, or that is an all-time high. Let me see here. Yeah. So, why are we seeing this now? We've had the halving. We thought we'd see it sooner. Some people said that what we saw was it, but other people were saying it seems to be it's going to be coming. And it looks like it potentially is coming. And then we'll have what we talked about, the alt season after that, hopefully. So yeah.
Yeah, so typically Bitcoin has two different styles of moves. It has, and this is where people get a little confused because a lot of people are anticipating the halving because they know it's coming. So the first initial price hike, the halving gets priced in because people are buying, but up until the halving happens. And then basically it's like, so everybody's buying it up. And then when the event happens, the actual price action gets it priced in. Bitcoin before was around August of last year was around $16,000, ratcheted up really quickly to well over 60,000, all the way up until this halving. And then from that point forward, for the most part, it's been trading sideways. So today, yeah, it's making a new all-time high. So the anticipation typically during the 4-year cycles is for the second move to happen, which is the parabolic move. So the parabolic move it goes into price discovery and really truly sets a new all-time high before it crashes. Altcoin season happens after that, where Bitcoin dominance then collapses. And then basically altcoins start picking up this liquidity because there's this huge sell-off from people taking profit out of Bitcoin. So that's the typical cycle. This cycle's been different for several reasons. We had the insurance rate hikes, the printing press not going as fast, so there's been a lot of, tightening of the liquidity. Plus, something to kind of do some research on is what's called Operation Choke Point 2.0, where regulators have been pressuring banks to debank or to minimize access to liquidity to centralized exchanges. So basically that's been putting a liquidity squeeze on the entire crypto market. So you have to kind of think things through and all the different, effects that, policy can have.
Yep. Yeah. So I don't know if it actually hit all-time high or just brushed the all-time high. I was trying to read it real quick here. Reached almost 73.6. Yeah. So all-time high was 73.7. So it was real close. But it just means it hit that resistance and potentially building support after that. So hopefully it'll continue on an uprise. 73. Yeah. But this is what happens when this starts going up. It creates news, which means people start buying, which means things start going up. So it could spur things to continue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So no FOMO.
Yeah. And as a wise person said, and I'm going to attribute this to Coin's Good, another channel, says it all the time. When you buy green candles, expect to get big red dildos.
Yep.
When the market is actually in the green and heading upwards, it is not the time to buy. It's the time to actually exercise caution. And if you're going to buy, do it very strategically and understand that the likelihood of it to turn red on you is really high. So you can find gems. There's a lot of, even in my opinion, there's a lot of projects that are still at or near their all-time lows that could be really good buys leading up to the altcoin season. If it happens, but you have to do your own research on those.
Yeah. Not financial advice.
Exactly. We are not financial advisors. How many times can I say that in one episode?
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, a lot of people say, the people that make the money seem to say you buy when your gut tells you not to buy. So you don't want to listen to that little person saying buy now when things are going up, because it's usually a bad time to buy. And we've done that. Don't get us wrong. We've learned from experience. We first dove into this market, just jumping on the FOMO train, buying stuff, thinking that we're going to hit it, but it's a long game for us for sure. And then also trying to lower our dollar cost averaging during the off season when we were buying, at lower prices. So, what else did you want to talk about? The swing and something else there?
Yeah, kind of talk briefly about Ethereum. Ethereum, there's been a lot of. I don't want to try to spread FUD per se about it, but there are legitimate points that is negative about Ethereum. It's traditionally it's been kind of a slow chain on transactions. It's atypically when it gets congested. The fees can get really high because it's a bidding system, meaning that if you want your transaction to go through, you basically put up more Ethereum and you get a higher priority on getting your transaction through the network. So it can so basically as congestion rises, which is actually not a bad system. It does democratize a little bit what the actual fee structure is. But it can lend to the problem of if you're wanting to say use it for a payment system or micropayments, it can become cost prohibitive because the actual fee to get your transaction to go through in a timely manner could be more than what you're actually buying, which goes into some of our early conversations about potentially when you actually require layer twos as a scaling solution, your chain primarily has an inherent flaw and potentially has already failed. This was mentioned by John Allen Woods, and the more I'm actually hearing about some of the problems that Ethereum is having, and there's applications, big applications, and there's one that I forgot to mention, which I'm going to mention now because I can't find the actual information on the one that I was going to talk about. But one of the first decentralized exchanges on Ethereum was Uniswap. They're getting off of the Ethereum chain because they've done the metrics and they basically push through over $1 billion worth of value through their exchange. Their users don't get any of that. The developers don't get any of it. It all goes to basically the Ethereum, basically stakeholders. So they're going to create a side chain. And while I initially heard a side chain, now I'm actually hearing they're building their own chain. But I thought they were building off of Chainlink. So I don't know exactly what they're doing or where they're moving to, but effectively they're going to have their own token. And that means that people that actually buy their token and stake their token will actually get portions of the volume of exchange fees through their DEX. that is a massive loss for Ethereum. You know, and there's other stories of this happening. It's just like there's applications like in the Polygon sidechain, basically what made it, you know, faster or cheaper to send Ethereum assets. So why? And it also had an Ethereum compatible smart contract virtual machine. So why deploy your application on Ethereum when you can do it more cheaply on the sidechain? So again, that means that the usage did come down on it. You know, the actual pressure on Ethereum dropped. But if you don't have any users, what are you there for?
Yeah, it's utility.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm not trying to FUD this. There are legitimate problems, especially when you're considering it's like the price of Ethereum. You know, it peaked out at what, over $4,000. It's currently what, 2,600. You know, it takes a minimum of what is it, 32 Ethereum to stake it to earn passively. I mean, considering the issues, and again, I'm not trying to give financial advice, but if it was my own money, and if I had, what is that, about $60,000, $70,000, I'd rather go buy a Bitcoin than buy the Ethereum.
Right.
No passive income on the Bitcoin. But to me, Ahmed, when you're talking about that kind of money, there's more value in a static asset than what Ethereum actually is bringing to the table at the moment. And I think a lot of people seeing that. And I think over time, unfortunately, and who knows what the ripple effect is going to be on the rest of the smart contract ecosystem, because there's a lot of smaller chains downstream of Ethereum, you know, and is this going to be the dot bomb effectively of the crypto world when Ethereum collapses, because they are the original, you know, they're the largest, the most visible. And with this start causing a cascading collapse of basically smart contract chains, some diamonds will actually kind of go away with it, but we'll actually start seeing basically potentially the Amazons, the eBays, you know, of crypto starting to pop up in replacement of it. So we'll see a lot of these other ones just disappear along with Ethereum.
Right.
It might be that little start of that domino chain. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Something we definitely talked about.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we said, it comes down to utility. It's looks. I see you sent me this ZTL.
The settlement was the other one. I could not
Yeah.
actually find details about them actually moving, so I didn't want to go
too deep
into them without actually bringing receipts. But they are a big deal on the Algorand side of things. There's a lot of things happening on Algorand. No detail about who yet, but there is evidence on chain. This was brought up on Twitter, that there's evidence on chain for Algorand that another airline is being onboarded to actually issue tickets through Algorand as NFTs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, real world adoption, utility that's actually happening today. So again, this is like, that's where we're, you know, focusing on is like utility. And then
so settlement is basically it's Europe's first payment institution built on a blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't really talk about that. The which is what their choice. The blockchain is Algorand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a big milestone for both them and Algorand, obviously.
Yep.
And Europe.
So one of the other things that I wanted to bring up, because we talked about this, what was it, 3 weeks ago when we were last online. So basically, I was saying is like the big money Bitcoin maximalists could end the argument in one action, and that would be to pick a chain and integrate with it in a way to where you could send Bitcoin to anybody in the world at any time without even thinking about that you're actually using another L1.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't dive into this far enough to know who built this, but there's something called Bitcoin OS, and it is the first trustless bridge. You do not need Cardano. You don't need ADA to send Bitcoin. So I kind of had mixed feelings about this because it wasn't done by Michael Saylor. It wasn't done by, I can't list out all the names at the moment. I'm brain farting a little bit. But those are the maximalists. It wasn't built by them. So they're not going to be pushing it because a lot of these maximalists, they don't want to touch any chain because they see all the other chains as absolute garbage, whether it's a true statement or not. They want to they're basically purists when it comes to the technology side of things. But I suddenly became very bullish on ADA because of this news, because it might be just one of those things that turns it into a sleeping giant. Because what happens when the software gets integrated and it ends up in a wallet, and somebody basically sends their Bitcoin, and the end transaction isn't a half hour; it's instantaneous, and nobody knows the fact that it actually happened and transacted through Cardano. And I mean, I think that it's one of those things that says it's just going to be not slow roll, but basically they're basically
kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, come out of nowhere. There's one of this delayed gratification, be another way of actually putting it, of it happening, because because nobody's going to be really talking about it within Bitcoin, because a lot of them are purists and around it, but the technology now does exist. So I thought it was actually kind of really cool news, and it just kind
of is that this BOS or
no?
Okay, that's something different.
Yeah, no, haiku is something extraordinarily nerdy.
Okay, all right. I just saw that what you sent there.
If you scroll up,
do you think so? Are we going to talk about something else?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I don't know how to. Where am I scroll up to? Yeah. Are we seeing potential in the market because of the election next week?
I'm definitely the market's going to shift come next week, regardless what the outcome is.
Yeah.
And
I agree 100%.
It's either going to be really good or really bad, and I guess that depends on which side of the fence you're sitting on that.
Right.
The way I see it, you have the person with an economic plan that's actually viable, and the person that doesn't have a clue.
Yeah. I don't know if that was sparking potentially any of this too. The little pop.
I would say kind of leading up to it, there might be a little bit of uncertainty, which is another reason why you have sideways action.
Yeah. People moving their assets a little bit around.
Yeah. People trying to protect themselves and hedge, depending on which way it goes.
Yeah, that's true. Because it could go either way. You could make out really well, or you could at least sustain what you have.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's very true.
Yeah, it's called Bitcoin OS, and they're on big bold on their page is the first open source code to verify zero knowledge proofs on Bitcoin, and they did it without actually forking the code.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Now, did you say you stood this up?
Which one?
The Bitcoin OS.
No.
Okay.
No, that's the team behind what I'm talking about with Cardano and ADA.
Okay, I got you.
Oh, what I stood up was a Algorand node, and
That's what.
yep, and I don't know when it's supposed to start, but they're supposed to be starting to do staking rewards for node runners, and node runners actually require a decent amount of algo, and there's actually pools that are going to be available for people that don't have enough algo to run their own node, or people that are not technically savvy enough to run a node.
Gotcha.
So basically, they're got a release mechanism. I think this basically has to do with the remaining supply of Algorand. And instead of doing it through governance like they have been, and governance kind of sort of failed it a little bit as an experiment. So they're basically going to be releasing the balance of the remaining Algorand through staking rewards.
Oh, okay. Well, that's kind of neat.
Yeah. So it's about, I think, $1.5 billion that's left.
Yeah.
So I mean, some people have been blaming the way they've been releasing in governance for basically some of the price action of Algorand, and which I could kind of understand, especially when you can buy up enough, because basically I don't have evidence of this, but this is what I've been seeing on Twitter X and other places, is effectively what would happen is somebody would actually buy enough and basically vote to themselves a grant of Algorand and then turn around and dump the Algorand.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
You'd still have to basically get enough of a proposal together to make it look like a legit project, to where it actually be proposed to be voted on. But once the paper is there, and then basically you just vote on it, and basically it's a weighted scale against the amount staked. So it just wasn't hard to game the system.
Yeah, interesting. It's crazy people have that intelligence to do that type of stuff.
And not all crooks are done.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, just I don't know. You think they'd do better?
And yeah, if you're smart enough to go through all that, why don't you actually build something?
Right. That's what I mean. It's like, or it could be worth way more, but it's just taking that shortcut, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now that I have the Algorand node, I'm still considering actually running a Monero node, because that actually doesn't require any staking. You just basically run the node and you can start earning passively from running it. But that one is definitely, since it's basically is proof of work, similar to Bitcoin, but they have built-in code that actually prevents GPUs and ASICs from actually being beneficial. So basically, it is strictly a CPU proof of work chain, which is nice, because that means that literally anybody can actually run a node, and anybody can actually legitimately mine. Whether or not it'll be profitable is something else, because it's going to basically put a core at 100%. So it's something I'm considering. I haven't really decided to bite the bullet on that one.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of like Algorand, they keep touting it, is that it's eco-friendly, it's low cost to run it in a node, it's low cost for its carbon negative because of carbon credits. Also, I'm like, ugh. It's like, okay, my power bill's not going to go through the roof by running it up. Cool, thank you.
Right.
That's all I care about.
Yeah. Gotcha. Is there anything else you want to chat about? I don't really have much else.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just like, depending on the direction I mean, it looks like Gary Gensler is going to be out regardless of who wins, which could actually be a good thing.
Okay.
I mean, the problem would be is it's like the person that replaces him is important.
Right.
So it could be just as somebody just as bad, worse, or somebody good, or we do get Donald Trump with Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency, and the SEC just disappears.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think they're actually bringing on Vivek Ramaswamy, and he wants to basically wholesale cut a bunch of these agencies. So, I mean, we've talked about our opinions on a lot of them. I mean, because you go back to the Constitution, which is basically the document that lays out the structure of government and what's authorized. There's not a single amendment that authorizes any of these organizations. You could make a argument for the Department of Defense because that is a primary function of a central government. Regulating the military, maintaining some kind of defense. So you can make arguments there. And there's some minor agencies that fall underneath that umbrella. But outside of that, and then the only thing that is actually literally explicitly called on the Constitution is the post office. No, there's nothing else that is actually enumerated in that document. And there's nothing in that document that actually gives Congress the ability to abdicate their authority to an agency, period. So I'm all for it. Cut, baby, cut.
Yeah. Yeah, I was reading this article you had sent about Gary there, that person, the former or the ex-sec colleague, talking about how basically they were trying to stifle. They're just they're trying to like hold crypto down, basically.
Yeah, I mean they're stifling innovation.
Stifling. Yeah, that's what I was. Government's trying to stifle innovation. Should emphasize calling for clear and constructive policy decisions.
I mean, and that's the thing. Is it's like we had. There's a movie that I've been wanting to watch. I mean, there's a couple actually based on the same time period, but I think it's called The Current Wars, about Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison trying to bring electricity to people's homes. And back in the day, it was like you had oil pipes running into, at least in the cities where it was viable to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But you would actually have indoor oil lamps, the oil lamps on the streets, and everything was oil powered. It's like, well, imagine it's like, okay, well, we have a corrupt oil company, and well, the electricity could be corrupted or misused, so we're going to prevent it from getting deployed, or we're going to try to slow down these people's work. I mean, it would have set us back a long time if the same amount of aggression would have happened against them.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy to compare it to that stuff like that if you think about it.
Right. It's like, imagine it's just like the early internet. It's like, yes, there was a lot of like, scammy website developers going after VC money, and that's why there was this dot bomb. It's just like there was this huge bubble in the internet market, and it just burst, because there was just a lot of garbage that built up with a lot of websites that were just going nowhere. People building nothing because there was just so much. I mean, part of it just is easy money. It was an easy liquidity market, lower interest rates, all that good stuff leads to these bubbles. So
yeah.
And I thought it was actually, a good article and kind of, touched on a little bit some of the stuff that we were already talking about.
Right.
I mean, Gary needs to go to the unemployment line. Warriors just go back to teaching at MIT, which is kind of funny because you'll actually find on the internet where he was actually extraordinarily positive he was positive about XRP, and he was very positive about Algorand.
Yeah.
And why was he positive about Algorand? Because Silvio Matali is a math professor at MIT. They're colleagues. So it's just like, why did he list both of these as securities? It's just like boggles my mind. It's like, here's some power and go abuse it. It's like, I don't understand.
Well, I mean, that could be just the pressure of DC too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't know. There's
There's a
lot
lot
of
of
lobbyists lobbying going on in DC. There's, you know, a lot of corruption. I think there's a bigger power that we probably don't realize that maybe that's because I thought that was interesting too, because a lot of people were very excited to see him get into that position because of that, because they were showing all these reels with him, you know, giving speeches about crypto and how he sounded very bullish on it and everything like that. And it just was, and for it. And then he gets in there and then like, it just was not what happened.
Well, somebody made, I don't understand the structure of SEC, and then technically he is the chairperson. He's the head of it, but he has very little control over the enforcement arm of the SEC.
Right.
And the enforcement arm has its own head, and they work almost autonomously. And it's the enforcement division, and I forgot the guy's name, but there is actually a head, and he is completely against crypto. Where Gary failed isn't the fact that he's directing these attacks. He failed because he did not give clear, concise rules about what is and what is not a security, which gave the enforcement division basically carte blanche to do whatever they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that's where that little bit of nuance basically comes in. But overall, yeah, he's just been bad for crypto. It's like, you know, just reform the entire thing or get rid of it, or either or.
Yeah.
You know, it's like most other countries, regulating finances is done by one body. We actually have, I think, two, or is it three? Because there's the SEC, the CFTC. Yeah. The CFTC is basically the commodities, which is gold, silver, dollar equivalents, those sorts of things. And there's been this war between the CFTC.
Treasury. Yeah.
And while the Treasury technically does fall underneath the government directly, I mean, these are the regulatory bodies.
Yeah.
And there's been a war between the two, trying to figure out who regulates crypto. And they both think they're on all crypto falls underneath each of them. Whereas, like in Europe, it is a singular regulatory body. So there is no competition or, you know, basically sibling rivalry. It is just, here's the regulation. You know, that's why, you know, you get the MiCAR regulation out of the European Union, and there's now MiCAR compliant cryptos being deployed in the real world. You know, the EuroD. It is not and I had to take a look at this again. It is not a stable coin. It is issued euros on chain. So, I mean, that's why the EuroD is actually a really big deal. And it's not, you know, its own chain with its own wallets. It actually is on chain. And we've talked about this before. It's, you know, deployed on Algorand. So it's a big deal that these things exist. It just is that level of innovation is being stifled here.
And we're not there. These other countries are going to surpass us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like fear of advancement, uncertainty, not knowing what it really is. I think maybe that's a big part of it. We have a lot of older generational people in politics that run our country, and so maybe they just don't really understand it, so they don't know what to do with it. So it's
I think it's protectionism. I think there's a lot of fear.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
We are the dominant force for the moment.
Oh.
I accidentally knocked the button on my desk.
Technical difficulties there.
Yeah, technical difficulties. It's a fear about the dollar losing control.
Yeah.
We've effectively been the world empire, the world reserve currency, all that stuff since the end of World War II. There was basically a revision of all the dollar agreements after basically removing ourselves from a gold standard. And we've basically been maintaining this dollar dominance. And if a viable alternative through digital basically comes up and people start adopting it, then dollar dominance disappears. So what happens to the empire? And I think a lot of that is the fear, right? It's just like, is there going to be, the fear of instability. Instability brings, uncertain economics. It brings in potential war. There are potential steelman or legitimate arguments from that side, but they're not being transparent about what those arguments are. But it also could just be, hey, look, here's a new economic system, and then just transition over to it almost seamlessly, and nobody really notices the difference. But again, it goes back to stifling the innovation, because as long as the innovation's stifled, we won't know what could come out.
Right. Well, that's my thing, is like, why don't we get in front of it?
Mm-hmm.
Incorporate it and say, okay, how we make this the best it can be, so we still dominate in the global market.
Exactly. So it's just like, how do we produce the best processors for doing Bitcoin mining? How do we produce the best, decentralized nodes? Because it's like, we're a very large country. It's like we should have nodes from Florida to Alaska. I mean, so we should be encouraging decentralization, with nodes worldwide. But we should have, nodes spread out across the entire country.
I just wonder too, it's part of it's just like they don't think it's going to become anything, that they can just keep brushing under the rug, and because it's going to fizzle away. It's going to fizzle away, because that, you hear that too a lot of times. People were just like, oh, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But I mean, you're talking millions of dollars that are moving through this market now. Like
it's
yeah.
I mean, it's just like you're talking going back to Uniswap, just exchanges, and most people doing these exchanges through DEXs. That's mostly what is it called? It's not the institutional. It's the what is the there's a word for normal people. I forgot.
Oh, yeah, I know. I can't think of it.
I know. It's just like
So,
it was.
Yeah, I have to look it up.
But they're doing billions of dollars of transactions, but you're talking literally trillions of dollars potentially flowing through these chains per year. It is going to be an area of extreme market growth worldwide. There's just no way, in my opinion, that it is going to go anywhere.
Yeah. Retail.
Thank you. The retail investors.
Yeah.
The term for normies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, you have the use cases of airlines and resellable tickets. That's also going to lend into ticket sales for events, whether it's music events, sporting events, what have you. Those things are going to happen, and they're going to happen on chain, and people are not going to and when it becomes mass adopted, it's going to be done in a way that most people are not going to know that what they're holding is on chain. They're just going to present their QR code, and it's going to get scanned, and a smart contract is going to execute.
Yeah, did you hear about this new? So there's a new automatic airline refund rules are now in effect. So if your flight is canceled, they have to refund you.
Mm.
If your domestic flight is delayed by 3 hours or more, they have to refund you. If your international flight is delayed by 6 hours or more, they have to refund you. That with the whole contracts thing, that could something like this could push them into that even more, because now you're talking about a much faster way to move tickets around.
Mm-hmm.
They can quickly see what, what I mean? Like, they can put you on another flight quickly, potentially,
Mm-hmm.
because they have more of a snapshot of what tickets are active and where people are at, and like can quickly transfer your ticket to that plane versus you having to go to a counter and they're having to do the and figure it all out. Or you can do some of this on your phone now. Like, you can do some of your transfers on your phone
Mm-hmm.
and get tickets pretty instantaneously. But this could be a much faster way to deal with all that stuff. Being
Yeah.
on a blockchain in
I
the
mean,
smart contract stuff.
yeah, it kind of getting into that, it's just like the speed of transactions is taken for granted. I mean, most people don't take a look at their bank account, but I would challenge anybody that's listening is the next time you use your credit card, have your phone, have your banking app on your phone and have it log in and take, and when you make a transaction on your credit card, take a look at it.
Mm-hmm.
If it shows up immediately, it's going to show pending. And then take a look at it like every other day, and it'll probably still be pending, probably about for another week.
3 days probably, I think, is what I
Right.
usually
But
say. Yeah.
but it takes time for it to actually clear. But people are used to going swipe and it's done. So that's why it's just like Bitcoin as a payment system or mechanism doesn't work because it is slow, because now people are expecting to swipe and there to be that delay. There needs to be, effectively an atomic swap. It's just like it needs to be as quickly as possible to where it's as painless as possible. But having it to being settled immediately takes it even further. And there's very few chains that can accomplish that. And that's where I'm extremely, bullish on this whole thing. And it kind of goes into what you're talking about is like, imagine it's just like they deployed these airline ticket smart contracts on Bitcoin. And they're like, okay, we have to go through and we have to switch people over. And they basically have to do this batch processing. It could be days to get through all these tickets to get all the updates done to move people over because of the pain of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin maximalists again. It's like I'm sorry. It's like y'all are mildly an easy target. There's other chains out there and they're doing this better. It's like step outside of your bubble and find ways of actually integrating these better technologies. And as I said, if you pick one, you would actually knock the field down to 2 chains overnight. I'm sticking to that. And, just like just the overall point is, the user experience when it comes to these sorts of things is going to be the highest of priorities. And there is a lot of work trying to guarantee the genuine decentralization of these systems. Cardano's putting in the work to make sure that happens. And from what I'm saying, they're pretty much there. I mean, their governance is 100% on chain. I have not played around with it, so I haven't heard the good, bad, and the ugly about it. I'm looking forward to actually seeing stuff, as it comes out. Sometimes governments can be dumb and good. Sometimes it can be bad. This is like Algorand did an experiment. It didn't work out. Sometimes governance does not necessarily work, for a chain itself. Now, and it could work for an application like Tinyman's going through governance on its with its token release. I haven't involved myself into that because it does require staking it, and they actually did it kind of mildly intelligently, because when you actually put your tokens in to stake for their governance, I think you lock it up for about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it basically takes a lot of the tokens that they're actually releasing out of circulation. But they do have a maxed cap supply, but you do have a high yield. But you're disconnected from basically any price action for a long time, which is actually kind of nice thing to do, and it does kind of balance out the tokenomics a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Mild tangent, but yeah.
All right. Well, I say we ended there.
Yeah.
All
So,
right.
all right, we're Jesse and Jeff. Welcome to Off the. Thank you for joining us on the Off the Crypto Cuff. Please like, share, and comment below. I do read the comments. There have been few and far between, so please join the conversation. Have a good night.
All right. Till next time.
Till next time.